Hello everyone, welcome to the Melancholy Coaching Podcast. I'm Fran, your host and NLP Coach. Join me as I interview inspiring business owners and self-improvement seekers about their experiences whilst delving into personal development, motivation and strategies for overcoming challenges. Let's ignite our creative potential together. Hello and welcome to the Melancholy Coaching Podcast. I'm Fran, your NLP coach, and I'm delighted to introduce a remarkable equestrian mindset coach to the show. She's a lifelong horsewoman with a first-class honours degree in applied animal behavioural science and welfare, which is quite a mouthful for me. She's a dedicated teacher, Reiki master, and part of the subcommittee that helped establish the national occupation standards for Reiki practice on animals, which is incredible. Passionate advocate for both horses and people, Alison has a rich personal history as a blended family mum to 2 girls, 3 boys. She's recently married her partner of 27 years, and she has a little grandchild. Alison was diagnosed at the age of 43 with spinal, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, I can't, Alison, help me.
Dysraphism.
Right. Spinal dysraphism. Okay, pronunciation's not my strongest point, which includes spina bifida, which makes more sense to me actually, because that's something I have definitely heard of. Alison underwent 3 neurological surgeries between 2010 and 2020. 2 on her lower back and 1 on her neck, which in itself is just incredible that you do the amount that you do now. Despite these challenges, she now rides as a para rider and has competed briefly in endurance riding. Her horse, I'm going to say Elle, got a longer name than that, Elle, is a purebred Arab horse. Alison is a coach with the Para Equestrian Foundation, supporting para-athletes in developing the mindset needed to succeed and represent the UK in dressage, endurance and carriage driving. Amazing. Alison Sandford-Gent, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased you're here, and thank you for helping me out with the pronunciation.
I'm pleased to be here. I guess lipomyelium would have been a bit much.
It would. I do my best, I do my best, but it's not my strong suit. I also mix up letters and numbers and things like that. So,
Oh, yeah.
we're all here doing our best, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I do exactly the same thing.
Right, I have got 3 pre-prepared questions for you, and we'll have a bit of a chat around them if that's okay. So my first question for you is, can you share with us your journey from being a lifelong horsewoman to becoming an equestrian mindset coach?
Oh,
I know.
been around 60 years. I mean, it's a bit of a long story. So I guess that passion for horses is hereditary. My grandfather was in the Royal Horse Artillery and trained the guys. It skipped my mum. My mum was terrified of horses. But I just had that, it's in the blood. It's really in the blood. So nagging, protesting, what do they call it? Pester power. I eventually got some horse riding lessons, much to my mum's disgust, because she believed I would get a big backside. And
Now there's a limiting belief for if ever I've heard one.
yeah. But for me, it was much better than ballet, because I was way too uncoordinated for ballet, and oh God, and carrying this spinal stuff, which none of us knew anything about. So I was quite uncoordinated actually. So sitting on a horse was much easier. So I went through a couple of riding schools, and then for my 18th birthday, what did I buy? An purebred Arab filly foal, which if I was saying that to anybody in the horse world, they would be going,
Uh,
but my friend my friend had moved from Kent, where we were at school together, down to Cornwall. She got herself this 3/4 bred Arab, and I just fell in love with them. I fell in love with the Arab as a breed, as a, you know. And then went on. I backed her myself. I didn't have a lot of tuition. I didn't have a lot of money for the tuition and riding lessons that I needed. So a lot of it was done with intuition.
okay.
Then came in, I became a complementary therapist, got into Reiki, realized how Reiki could be used on animals and horses. One of my horses got really ill, with it's called tying up, but basically all the muscles lock. It's a very dangerous condition, you know, acute condition.
Okay.
Fortunately, she survived, but through all that, I met a wonderful equine osteopath called Gavin Schofield. Um, and that was quite a long relationship. I was racing my horses under Jockey Club rules for Arab racing. And we did all right, actually. We had a few places, and I was up against like Sheikh Maktoum and Sheikh Mohammed and the Galloways, Bill Smith. These were quite big names who, as an amateur, were racing as Arabs, racing their Arabs, pretty much from the thoroughbred world. And we did all right. You know, as a plucky amateur, it was fine. And then, you know, sort of blended families. Mum and dad got elderly and sadly passed away. I was still quite young. I was in my 30s. Marriage broke up. You know, the whole life.
Yeah.
Um, so I managed to hang on to one or two of my horses. Grim death, gritted teeth, and all went quiet. And I'd while I was a complementary therapist and about sort of just finishing up about 2008, I'd come across all this animal behavior, stuff like that. Didn't see how it sat with the Reiki, but you know, I was picking up on it a lot. Thought, do you know what? Actually, I needed more for my brain to do, so I decided I was going to do the uni course, the Applied Animal Behavioural Science and Welfare.
Right.
And my dissertation was around Reiki on horses. So that was 3 years. But in 2009, the end of my first year of uni, my my back went. And that wasn't the first episode. I'd been seeing osteopaths and what have you for a number of years with back pain and shoulder pain and, you know, and so I went, I was due an exam, slung a haynet over my shoulder and back went. I was like, oh, this could be a bit tricky for the
Yeah.
old exam. So I days when you could get a doctor's appointment, whoopee, went down to the doctor's and he went, you got this symptom, that symptom. I'm going to send you for an X-ray. You're not going to your exam. I was like, oh, that wasn't quite what I intended. I just wanted a sick note in case I didn't do very well. Ends up in A&E and X-ray on my back, and they went, oh, we're going to give you an MRI. Okay.
Oh, that's
And
a bit
then,
more than a sick note.
yeah, yeah. So the um the MRI came back and there was this very enthusiastic young doctor who went, oh, I can refer you. I'm like, oh God, give me some cheese quick. I think I'm growing a tail. I think I'm becoming a lab rat. And that was then, so that was the summer. So Friday the 13th of November, or days, I was given my diagnosis, which was split spinal cord, tethered spinal cord,
Wow.
spina bifida, and then, because starting to get old at the age of 43, my discs were starting to collapse, and then later I was told my facet joint, which is the little wing on the back of the vertebrae. So you've got your vertebrae like that, and then they've got the little wings. Well, the little wing on the back of one of my vertebrae was eroding. It was just disintegrating. So early February 2010, I had my first operation, and actually the wonderful pediatric neurosurgeon, Chris Chandler, he's now retired, had said to me, well, I won't know until I get in there what I'm actually going to find. But what we want to do is we want to snip this little bit of tissue that we think is caught on the end of your spinal cord, and sort of free your spinal cord so it does what it should do, is float free in the spinal column.
Yep,
Okay, that's
sounds
fine.
easy enough.
Sounds about no.
No.
So what they do, they go in, they go in through your vertebrae, and then through the little sac that your spinal cord sits in and all the spinal fluid, and they open that up and they go in with their little tiny tools and they try and snip stuff away. Mine wasn't that easy because this little bit of, it is fatty tissue, so it's not, there's no risk that it's going to be cancerous or anything like that. But my nerve roots had grown through this piece of fat, which meant that they couldn't cut it away, for fear of actually paralyzing me, because all of those nerves do something and do stuff in your lower abdomen, in your legs and feet. So that was the first one. Second one was the scar tissue from the first, to get rid of that. And
Okay,
then
that's interesting though, that
yeah,
the
yeah,
second surgery was literally to remove the scar tissue.
yeah. And this is what people don't realize, because what happens with scar tissue, it's like, sadly you see, on burns victims, that it will scar, that's great, but then it matures and it shrinks. So what was happening, it was crushing again. So that was that one. But psychologically, it really hits right at the top of that chain. It hits your identity, because for 40 odd years I'd been running around as somebody who'd been stunt riding motorbikes and riding horses, backing horses, getting on horses that other people wouldn't get on. And life had its trials, but basically I would, and I had a bit of pain here and there, but I was carrying around this massive malformation, or malformations, which is why it's dysraphism, because that applies to multiple changes
My
in the back.
nemesis word,
Yeah, yeah.
dysraphism.
Yes,
There you go.
dysraphism. So these massive changes, and of course I hadn't known about it, but I had little red mark across my sacrum, which is
Oh,
one of the signs. 40% of people with this kind of thing, let's just start with the spina bifida, have some sort of skin lesion, they call it.
yeah, I had no idea about that.
So, but mine was a strawberry birthmark. My mum had a craving for strawberries while she was pregnant with me. Oh, look, there's the evidence.
Right.
But this was 1965, it's,
I've
an
got a
age.
birthmark shaped like a potato.
Have you?
So
Oh, and
anyway,
unless it,
moving on.
moving on, unless it's across your, sort of sacrum, or in your, but anyway, so that was that. That's, you know, 'tis as it is. So that massively hit my sense of identity. There were knock-on stuff, you know, in my mobility. I felt very vulnerable at times. And it was, you know, it was tough. And you've got 5 teenage children at that point as well. Life was
Just out of
interesting.
interest, where does the neck surgery fit into that?
Oh, right. So we've done 2010, we've done 2015 for the
Right, okay.
for the scar tissue. And of course the hospital was keeping an eye on me and what have you. So one of my superpowers for staying on a horse is lightning quick reflexes in my knees. Fabulous. Because, you know, the horse does something, my knees go whoop, and
Yeah,
I manage to stay on most times, which is quite good. But I was experiencing more symptoms, and um, the reflexes in my knees were checked. Now, reflexes, maybe some people were, you know, for a lot of people, a reflex is either there or it's not. It's, you know, my reflexes were like really brisk, you know, like
okay.
lightning. They are lightning reflexes. And who knew that can indicate issues in the neck? So this was about 2018-19, heading into the pandemic. And what had happened is obviously where I had adapted to walk, you know, right from the earliest times,
Yeah.
the discs wore out in my neck. So
I get it.
what started to happen was that those discs were bulging and they were essentially rubbing on my spinal cord and the nerves emerging in my neck. So C5, C6, and C6 and C7. So the MRI revealed that's what was happening, that my spinal cord was being impacted and um my the nerves into my hands and arms was being impacted, and the flow of cerebral spinal fluid past that area was quite restricted.
Mm.
um which was kind of, it's bearable at first, but it deteriorated, and it started to deteriorate quite rapidly in
Okay.
2020. So and of course we're then dealing with the pandemic, and you may remember that some of the private beds had been almost had been seconded by the NHS to deal with non-urgent patients or urgent patients that weren't to do with COVID. So you know, lack of communication, everybody's distracted by COVID, blah, blah, blah. I had been referred on to a specialist neck surgeon, and had happened to find out, I'd seen him for a consultation, been told that if I wanted to slum it in King's private wing, that would be 17,000, thank you very much. Or if I wanted to go to Harley Street, it would be 24, thank you very much. Neither of which was open to me as an option. And so went back to King's kind of went, and I managed to get hold of the bed manager and explain the symptoms, explain the lack of communication from, by then I was quite regularly so poorly I had to go to, I was going to A&E, and they got back to me very, very quickly in the end and went, oh yes, you are now an urgent case. So off I went to Harley Street. Got my neck fixed. So I got spacers put between, the discs came out, spacers put between my vertebrae to keep them apart, keep the pressure off, and then little brackets between the vertebrae. So I don't know if you can see, I don't know if it shows on my neck, but there's a very, very fine scar on my
So
neck.
these surgeries that you've had, are they now kind of for want of a better expression, are they permanent surgeries? You know, are they something that has to be gone back into, or is that it now?
No, I had a really bad episode at the beginning of 2024 where one of my discs, again, one of my discs has exploded. There's nothing between two of my vertebrae. And one of my, if you call it obliterated, it's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of my other discs between L2 and 3 again was herniated. So I lost a lot of mobility in my right leg. It was collapsing. And they basically told me there that they were not going to operate. They would not operate to fix it. And
Okay.
do you know, actually, I'm quite grateful. We go back to the scar tissue thing, and you know, a lot of people think that surgeries are a permanent fix,
Yeah,
but
that's why I was asking, because I wondered if,
yeah,
you know, there was anything else.
they cure the acute issue, or they, you know, sort of, but they you then have to manage them because of the scar tissue.
Yeah.
So it's keeping mobile, it's keeping doing your physiotherapy exercises every day. It's going back to see the osteopath. I see an osteopath once a month. I now have a massage therapist in as well, because that is the way I keep going. And yes, it costs money. I'm very fortunate. I work. I've got a reasonable job. You know, I prioritize that in my spending,
Yeah.
and that's the way to look at it. But I don't have to take so many drugs. You know, my drugs are a last resort. I can have anything I want. I could have morphine. You know, I've got morphine patches if I want them, but they are a very much a last resort because of the side effects of the drugs. I hate them. I hate it. I
Right. So
much,
tell me more about, you've mentioned my you've mentioned mindset within that,
yeah.
um, and about the kind of the how that affects your identity, because then that's, you know, that can then affect your mindset. So lead this on to how you become an equestrian mindset coach.
Oh, well, do you know what? I was stopped from riding when my neck was diagnosed.
Okay.
I was stopped from riding, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, I understand that. And then um this horse came onto my yard, another Arab. I clicked with him, and I was like, it was like a homecoming. My other half by then I was over the operation, I'd rehabbed, and he's like, oh God, I really can't stand you not riding.
Yeah.
So and then I was looking for something to do, and a way to be helpful. So I organised a couple of sponsored ride, raised about £6 for the Brain and Spine Foundation.
Amazing.
But
Well done.
that wasn't, actually it was 9, because I had 3 1 year and 6 the next. But I wanted to do something more. I wanted to help people. I knew I had
Right.
experience and knowledge and understanding that was quite a lot different from the mainstream, but knew it worked.
Yeah.
And got introduced, or brought back to the idea of coaching that I'd investigated sort of all those years ago in 2008 and 9. I'd qualified as an NLP practitioner, started to do the coaching, got distracted, and then up pops the idea of coaching
Yeah.
again. And that's obviously how you and I came into contact with each other. And I like the idea of that. And part of the idea of coaching, as you well know, is to niche. And I'm like, well, what can be my niche? What can be my niche? And initially I was thinking, well, you know, I can coach people who are in chronic pain, because I live with pain every day. I function. I'm fine. I manage to work. And I've got a lot of experience on how to manage pain. And a friend of mine who I'd met at one of the para riding things, she had gone in for an operation, was suffering really badly with her pain, messaged her and said, look, you know, would you be interested in us having a chat? And she said yes. And she's a very similar mindset to me, loves connecting people, you know, the right people with each other. So we, you know, we can network and all help each other. And she said, oh, do you know Di? And I know nothing. I know nobody. Oh, you must know Di. She's lovely. She's wonderful. And I was like, oh, no, but you know, anyway, so this went on over a couple of our chats. And she said, oh, I'll introduce you. So I'm like, in the end, I seized the moment. I said, you were gonna introduce me and Di, do you fancy it? And she went, oh yeah. So then and there, she's messaging. Puts me in touch with Di Green, who's the founder of the Equestrian Foundation. Di used to be on the British squad for dressage. Found her had an acquired brain injury through a horse accident, and has ended up being a para rider. And out of the pandemic, she was saying, sorry, do you want to pause the recording just a second for me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you was introduced to Di.
Di, yeah. As you know, a chronic pain coach. And we got chatting. Di is amazing and lovely and driven, and wants to support as many para athletes to represent their country in para dressage or carriage driving or what have you as possible. Now, whereas there's multi-millions in the able-bodied world for riding and, you know, sort of the equestrian sports, we have the additional that, one, there's not a lot of money, and two, we need a heck of a lot more support in terms of, you know, because of the costs of it are huge. And you need a really good team around you. You know, if you need two people to get you onto a horse, you know, that takes a lot. And then, you know, you've got all the same needs for your horses as everyone else, whether that's the saddler, the bits, the feed, the whole works. You know, the list is extraordinary. Because it's not just you as an athlete, your horse is the athlete as well, you know, so it's double bubble. Anyway, so we started chatting.
Did you just say double bubble?
Yeah,
I love
it's double
that. That's such a
bubble.
fun expression. That's
It's
really
double
nice.
bubble. But you know, we got chatting and the mindset came up, and she kind of was as we were chatting, she's like, oh, well, I, you know, do goals and this, that, and the other. And I was talking about sort of all the wider implications, all the limiting beliefs, and, you know, when people are carrying trauma, how that affects them. And so many paras carry trauma from, you know, not just the everyday stuff of their interactions with other people, having accidents on their horses, losing horses, road traffic accidents, which, believe me, if a horse is involved in a road traffic accident, it is horrific. And, you know, and then from their own medical conditions and their own medical procedures, because that brings its trauma as well. So we were talking about this, and she got me on one of her monthly calls with her athletes, and we were chatting through some of the stuff, and I was talking to a lovely lady who's a physiotherapist, but then has her own medical conditions as well. And what she hadn't disclosed was that one of her things is she has Tourette's. And we went through this lovely relaxation exercise, and everybody was joining in, and it was great. And we were dealing with, sort of letting go of stuff and, relaxing, all wonderful. And then she looked direct at the camera and let out this phrase that was completely nothing to do with the scene. And
So it was completely out of context.
it was completely out of
Yeah.
context. And she'd done a couple of things, and I'd kind of paused and said, "Are you all right to carry on?" She said, "Yeah, I'm fine." Anyway, she's come out with this phrase, which was hilarious and completely out of context, as a Tourette can be. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I hadn't come across not I hadn't come across Tourette's before, but in my mind, my preconceived idea was that a Tourette was caused through stress. And I thought, oh my God, I've stressed her out. And she then
Right.
explained,
Okay. So that was a bit of a misconception, which
yeah,
potentially we can all have,
yeah,
if it's not our direct experience,
yeah,
and we don't know. We have
absolutely.
to learn these things, don't we?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I managed to keep my very professional mask on,
Mm.
and just made sure she was all right and she was okay. And then she explained that it also happens when she's very, very relaxed and calm and happy. Phew.
But
Like,
this is where I feel that exchanges between people and communication and things like that is just so valuable, isn't it? We
yeah,
learn about each other, we learn how to support each other. Your story is really one of not just a journey, but it's the growth involved in that as well. So your whole
absolutely.
story, the growth in it, and then how you
Mm,
can now pay that forward to others and help them. This
yeah.
is leading beautifully onto my next question for you.
Can I just
Um,
finish this little story because it's really
yeah, go on,
good?
tell me, because I've got
This,
to prepare this next question because I want to know. I'm quite curious
this
about how you're going
girl,
to answer.
this girl, having been really worried about riding,
Mhm.
ridden with a lot of guilt about putting upon her family who support her to ride, went out the weekend, went out on a 5-hour ride, tumbled off at the end into some grass, didn't hurt herself, got back on. 2 weeks later, she went out and competed and came second in her class.
There you go.
So that was the real, a real change for her. And then I think that managed to cement my place
Yeah,
in
but
the foundation.
as as coaches, we support that transformation within people. So it's
Yeah.
taking you from where you are right now on that transformational journey to who you want to be or where you want to be. Um, and that almost sounds as though it happened accidentally. However, but due to your training and the person being, responding to your training, it felt quite natural.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know what? The coach training gave me the chance to grow. I hadn't realized that how much I'd shut down through all of my own trials and tribulations and
Yeah,
the trauma of the operations. And the coaching for me has allowed me to open up as a person very much, and reconnect with the core of who I am and who I want to be.
yeah. That's important as well, isn't it? Because it's not only, who we are, it's where we're going, who we're choosing to be as well, because we
Mm,
can make those choices.
yeah,
Um, I'm loving this. Right, I've got a good one for you next. Are you ready?
go on.
What are some of the common mindset challenges you see in athletes, riders, and how do you help them to overcome these?
A lot of it is loss of confidence, anxiety, fear. I mean, who in their right mind would get on an animal, a prey animal, that can gallop away at 40 miles an hour if they want to, and dump you like that? It it's 20 times more dangerous than riding a motorbike, getting on a horse. So for any parent out there, don't worry if your teenager's getting on a motorbike, worry about them getting on a horse. um it it's such a common thing that it's accumulated over the years. So when somebody has gone through, like most people do, they've gone through a tough childhood in whatever way that has manifested,
Yeah.
and then you add on all the life's traumas, and then you're getting on an animal that's 500 kilos and dashing off into the distance. It is about helping them overcome fear, helping them to rebuild their confidence, helping them to overcome and release, get past those things that they've been hanging on to and that are locked into their bodies. So I use a lot of NLP, obviously, timeline work, quantum transformation, visualizations, all of those kind of things. And I guess, like you will have done with your coaching, you kind of have your toolkit, your bit, your preferred little exercises and what have you, and some of them you delve into more than others. But it's very much about the mindset of people who have horses is very different, I think, to the background population. And in terms of what I've just said, there's not many people who will get on, 500 kilos to a ton of animal that not
Not
only
me.
yeah.
Not
I mean,
me.
you think 65 million years of evolution to be a prey animal, and about 4,500 years they've been domesticated. It's the blink of an eye. So the mindset, we are used to getting knocked by our horses and, sort of bowled over, kicked, bitten, dumped off them, going through hell and high water, literally, to make sure they're all right. I mean, the predominantly women in this country, that are looking after horses, we spend the winter wet, cold, covered in mud, not so much slipping around on snow these days, but we go through that drive to go and be with them is just
Right, okay, so that also
unbelievable.
lends itself to what I asked you. So I would say that it's also to do with the motivation and stuff like that, isn't
Mm,
it? So if people
mm.
actually have got that passion to be around horses and
Yeah.
that passion to be
Yeah.
either working with or riding horses, but they have a significant injury themselves or a disability, um, the motivation potentially is there, but
Oh, it's huge.
the fear would overcome that, wouldn't it? Surely.
This is it. This is the balance. This is you know, um, the balance between the motivation and fear.
Mm.
The exhilaration of being with that animal and being able to ride and connect. It's a very it's almost spiritual. It's it's all encompassing. You know, every sense of your body, every sense, all of your mind. It's just you just become, if you know, if you've got a really good connection with your horse, you become part of that horse, you know, and the horse becomes part of you. You feel every movement. You feel, you know, you'll feel the horse at the slightest hesitation.
It's like a synergy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you've ever watched Avatar and seen them get their little their tails, their locks, and they lock into their creatures, it's that. It's that. And it it's just amazing. So the motivation is huge. And it if you ever watched oh God, Grey's Anatomy, when someone couldn't move their arm, and they're like, move your arm, and he's like, can't move my arm, can't move my arm. And then for some reason they needed to grab something quick, like a glass was spilling, and
Right.
it
And
went,
they just did it.
yeah, and they just did it
Yeah.
because it wasn't the fact of moving the arm, it was the reward they were going to get, or the impulse they were going to get. So that kind of changed the brain pathway. And that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite, that's one of my things. I mean, apart from obviously my own issues that are very neurologically based as well, and I also had a pre-existing interest through the Reiki. My dad had a brain tumor long before I was born, so I've always had that interest in neuroscience and how the brain works. So
Which I
that,
think lends itself beautifully to NLP, which I
yes.
thinking about it now, I should have actually have clarified this in the beginning. By NLP, we mean neuro-linguistic programming.
Mm,
So which is to do with the communication, so the way that your brain communicates with yourself and how you communicate with others,
yeah.
how we think about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves.
Mm,
Um, and I feel like it does lend itself to that kind of exploration of neuroscience as well. That's not
yeah.
an avenue that I've gone down. I stick quite very much so within the NLP range. And it fascinates me that we've had a similar training as such, although our life experiences are quite different. We've had a similar
Mm,
training within coaching, and I apply my coaching in a you know,
completely
a
different way.
completely different way. Yeah, a completely
Yeah.
different way. So a lot of mine is based on not just limiting beliefs and stuff like that, but it's the motivation, it's the action plans, the goal setting, the planning, you know, the
Mm,
building and building your mind and your
mm,
resilience and your or your business and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
in the way you've taken similar training and similar information and you're applying it completely differently.
Yeah. I mean, I just love, and I guess this came, I read a book, and I've obviously mentioned it to you in the past, called The Pain-Free Mindset by a lovely Dr. Deepak Ravindran. Um, and and that was very motivational for me, because at that point I was still, you know, experiencing a huge amount of pain, and actually validated everything that I had been doing in terms of staying as mobile as possible, and you know, sort of taking as few drugs as possible, and doing it with lifestyle and, you know, mindset and drive. My horses have been my drive, my family has been my drive to keep going.
Mm.
But the idea, and he was very much about that, you can change your neural pathways, that, you
Yeah,
know, the neural pathways that can produce physical pain without you know, inflammation, and, you know, or trauma or infection, but that is a protective thing for you. You know, your brain goes, oh, I need to protect you from any chance of any more hurt, so I am going to produce the pain which will then stop you doing stuff. And the idea that you can override that and go, no, actually, I am okay, I am safe, I can do this, and you know, and gather a different team around you to
yeah.
go to keep you going.
And
is
all of this
amazing.
as well, that we're discussing, Alison and I, and for anybody listening, this all comes with no judgment. So if somebody else is more heavily reliant on medication because that's what they need, or different methods, there's absolutely no judgment. This is our path, what's worked for us. We love to pay it forward to help other people. I mean,
Definitely.
I've had a lot of pain in my life through different things, and at that time I was on very heavy pain medication, let me tell you, because I would not have been able to do my day without it, and I've slowly come off of that.
Yeah.
But it also, yeah, it has to come with no judgment, because as coaches we just we listen to people, don't we listen, and
Yeah.
it's without any preconceived ideas, and it's without any judgment, so
Yeah.
we listen. So it was
Um,
interesting that you caught yourself on a misconception that you potentially had about Tourette's, because that it doesn't mean that we're infallible or that we're perfect. We come with our human selves, don't we?
yeah.
And we've already got our built-in limiting beliefs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
There is no job, and people have to want to, and have to be themselves, looking for a different way to do things. And you have to kind of, there are people that are ready for coaching, ready for what you've got, ready for what I've got,
Yeah,
um, and there are people who are not, and the people who are not, and it's not their path, that's fine. That's fine. But if somebody, puts their hand up and goes, I want to do things differently, then we're there. Then we're there
yeah,
to be able to go, okay, well, look, this is how I see it can be done, or this is what I've got to offer you. And that might be right for you. It might not be. But, what might be right for somebody who comes your way, Fran, might not be right. If they came to me, I wouldn't necessarily be the right person for them, and vice versa.
yeah,
And
yeah.
because coaching is such a personal thing, isn't it?
Very much so. And I found that I actually started my own journey of learning NLP through suffering from depression. So it was a journey of my lifelong story of depression led me to eventually to look up mindfulness and to do some courses in mindfulness, and that then led me on to neurolinguistic programming and coaching. And so in I've almost it's like I've helped myself along the way, and now I feel truly ready and supported to help other people.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
right, I've got another question for you. Right.
Go on.
What's the most important lesson? Because I feel like this leads into it quite nicely. So, what's the most important lesson you've learned through your own journey that you would want others to know?
I think we come back to the no judgment,
Mm.
um, and being kind to yourself. So often we beat ourselves up, and it's being open, when you're ready to grow. But there's times when you're not. You're just not. You're just surviving what you're going through. But you can allow that to pass. You can allow that not to be part of your story rather than your identity.
Yeah,
And
which I think is a really important message.
yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of stories. I've got big stories, but they're not who I am. They make up parts of me. They make up towards the whole of what I am. But there's a lot of me that's not my back pain. That's, you know, people always used to. I reached a point, and I think it was while I was training in the coaching, when, people always used to ask me first, oh, how's the horses? And then it was, how's the kids? And then it was, how's your back?
How's your back? Yeah.
And you know, that was where I was in my life. Now people are saying, how's married life? Is it any different to being not married? So, you know, that's just another chapter, just
Yeah.
another chapter, and just another aspect of who I am. And I think if we can just know and understand and be kind to the bits that are hurting, or that do carry hurt with them, or carry really hard lessons with them,
Yeah.
then that gives us room to grow and gives us room to change when we're ready and when we want to.
Yeah. So no judgment for ourselves, our thoughts and our past actions, and
Mm.
it's that we can grow, we can learn, we can change, we can grow new neural pathways, we can, help ourselves.
Mm.
Um, and you're there to support. Right, tell me specifically, um, who you would like to support. If there's somebody listening right now and they think, quite interested in what Alison's doing, um, how could you support them?
How could I support them?
Yeah.
Well, it is the coaching, it is finding out who you want to be and removing some of those blocks, like you talk about, limiting beliefs. You know, that bit of you that says, I'm not good enough. I don't know why I'm here. They're all so much better than me. You know, all of those little thoughts that hold you back, that aren't necessarily true now or don't serve you now. I often think, you know, some of this stuff has protected us. We've needed it to protect ourselves
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
whatever. And then a lot of people reach a point where actually it's not serving them. It's not getting them what they want and what they need
Mm.
to be a fulfilled person. So, especially in the world of horses, it's very, very tough. And there's a lot of judgment. I mean, let's face it, you know, you see these fabulous dressage horses, and you're judged. You are, there is no other terminology for it. You are judged. Is this horse foot perfect to within millimeters? Do they have enough elevation? Is it too much elevation? Is it this? Is it that? And the horse world is very much very judgmental,
Yeah.
very
So
judgmental.
it's about having the mindset to actually deal with that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
And put it into
the You
context.
mentioned tools as well, because we've all got our own toolkit, haven't we? So it's having the
Yeah,
tools and the resources,
yeah,
that you can lean into to help yourself through that. And that's what you can do as a
yeah.
coach. You can
And
provide that information or that
mm,
transformation for people so that they've got
yeah.
their own toolkits.
And it is having that deep understanding of horses and the horse world. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, just it's putting the person at the center. And a lot of, you know, what I talk about and where we start is well away from your horse, you know, because by the time your horse, you've got to be right before you get to your horse. You've got to be in that right
Yeah.
mindset before you get
That
to
makes
it.
absolute sense.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm always talking to people about doing their exercises, their mindfulness, their, you know, be having their raising their confidence because of the work that they've done with me, because of the exercises that they've done. So I start with people away from the horse. I'm not an equitation coach as
Yeah.
such.
Okay.
I won't tell you, you know, sort of how to do a better shoulder in or a better half pass or something like that. I won't train you to do that. What I will help you to do is gain the confidence. So when you do get on your horse, you are transmitting that confidence and that calmness into your horse. So your horse then becomes calmer and better to deal with, easier to deal with, so that you become a deeper partnership. And in terms of pain, if you're
There
a
we go.
para, I will help you, if you want to find additional ways to manage your pain effectively, so that you may or may not be able to reduce your pain dose, but what you will be doing will be much more effective.
I love it. So thank you. Thank you. It puts it really clear as well, because it's working with the people and their minds, so that they're ready for going to their horses, for working with their horses. And it's
Yeah.
also that deeper understanding that you've got of people with injuries and disabilities that are involved in the horse world, because you've really got that kind of journey yourself that lends to being able to support those people.
Yeah.
So you're right, that's very it's quite a oh, what's the word? It's not just niche, it's quite kind of not just specific either. What is it? It's
Niche of niche.
the niche of niche. I want to say a little bit unusual, but
Yeah.
it's quite original, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm gonna wrap this up now, okay? So Alison, thank you very much for being here with me and chatting to me,
It's been great to be with
sharing
you.
your incredible journey, your story of resilience and dedication. It's very inspiring, and hopefully inspiring to people that are listening. For those of you interested in learning more about Alison and her work, you can find her on Facebook as Alison Sandford-Gent, and on Instagram as Riding Beyond Limits Coaching, and it's
Yeah.
riding _ beyond _ limits _ coaching.
Yeah.
And you've got a website as well, haven't you?
Yeah. rblcoaching.co.uk. And I'm also at Facebook as Riding Beyond Limits Coaching. And you'll see a lovely picture of Elle and me riding in the pouring rain.
Okay, so please find Alison and connect with her, and look at her content, see if you're interested. I, just for complete transparency, which I know that you know, I love horses. I love looking at horses. I do not work with horses. I don't ride horses, but I'm just equally as fascinated with what you do. So even those that aren't in the horsey world, I still think that you'll find it fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about, for me, with the background in the welfare and lifetime with horses, it's as much about making their lives as great as possible, as much as the riding.
Which is the bit that I'm interested in, because as I love to tell you and everybody, I'm vegan, so I don't ride horses or work horses or anything. However, it's the welfare of the horses and it's the welfare of the people that I'm very interested and very invested in. So if there's anybody else like me out there listening to this, by all means do find Alison and connect with her, because I can tell you, from like vegan to non-vegan here, like, you are in safe hands. Trust me, you're in safe hands. Because I love
Yeah.
Alison's content. I love hearing about her horse. I love hearing about what she's doing. It's really fascinating. So on that note, if you're interested in more content like this, be sure to check out the Melancholy Coaching on YouTube. So it's a Melancholy Coaching YouTube channel. And that's where this podcast will be, as well as in video form. So until next time, stay curious and keep igniting your creative potential. And on that note, we're going to say bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on the Melancholy Coaching podcast. I'd love you to subscribe. For queries or to connect, email info@melancholymentor.com. Until next time, keep igniting your creative potential.